good morning, everybody. Welcome, Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. How are you, Bruce?
I'm good, Eric. How about you?
I am good. Who had a worse night last night? The Nuggets or Shedeur Sanders?
Ooh, ouch. That one hurts. It hurts
Why?
that there's even a relatively reasonable comparison, right? Yeah.
Worst night?
Well, I don't know who had the worst night. I guess in the moment, it's probably the Nuggets losing by what, 34 on the road in a playoff series where all of a sudden now it looks like they are in very deep water. So I'm pretty concerned there. Shedeur Sanders, I'm not worried about. I think that will all work out and we'll move down along the road, and Shedeur Sanders will have a good to decent to good career in the NFL. I'm not worried about one bad day for Shedeur Sanders. I think he'll overcome that.
Well, what's interesting is ESPN at 6 o'clock this morning, they spent the first 15 minutes talking about him. It should just tell you the power of the Sanders name. And, you know, he is like the light, and we're all the moths. We just go right to that as much as anything else. But let's dive deep into the Broncos. When you saw the pick, and it was Jahdae Barron out of Texas, when all of us thought it was going to be a running back, where you're like, what? But then again, how many people really expected Jahdae Barron out of Texas to be there with the 20th pick?
You've covered the base. That's exactly right. And I think that's exactly what happened. That's a very highly rated player on their draft board that all of a sudden was available to them at 20. And they talked about really kind of navigating about 5 or 6 picks to get him to 20. So they obviously had him on their radar pretty quickly. It should be noted that I think that they were laying in wait for a running back. They wanted to move back. They even talked about that briefly last night. They had an idea that they wanted to move back, couldn't find a partner to do it with. But by that time, Barron became a pretty obvious pick for them, one that I think that they were borderline giddy about, being able to get a player. Because if you really think about it, Eric, and we've talked about this, there are probably about 14 really strong first-round grades in this draft. This was one of the players that had a strong first-round grade. So they feel like they got, even if it's in a position of wealth for them in the cornerback room, what's the saying in the NFL? You can never have enough cover guys. So there they go. Yeah, it took me by surprise. I was not expecting it. Knew that he was there. Didn't expect it to happen, but interesting that it did.
You can make the case that the Broncos need a running back more than they need a cornerback. But let's see how the rest of this draft plays out before we look at it and say, oh, they had a bad draft. Remember, George Paton said last night, he's like, yes, we were looking to trade back. You and I talked about it on the show yesterday that I didn't think TreVeyon Henderson would be a first-round pick anyway. So why not trade back and see if you can pick up picks and still get him? But Peyton said yesterday there are other backs in the draft. But the thing that made me roll my eyes was when he said, yes, we're going to try and probably get a running back later in the draft. Or if we don't get one, we'll go into free agency. And I'm like, if that's where this is going to go, you're going to take a free agent running back and hope that he is your Omarion Hampton. You're going to hope that he is your TreVeyon Henderson. I'm sorry. Those guys don't go undrafted.
No. Yeah, those will be harder to identify. I do believe that they feel, and rightfully so, that there is a lot of quality depth left in the running back room, but there isn't 3 down quality depth left in the locker room. You've already got 2 of the 3 guys that I think were considered to be the strongest 3 down backs that are already off the board. One of them, interestingly enough, to the Chargers.
And then you have Genty Then you have Genty going to the Raiders, Hampton going to the Chargers, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And for 4 games every year, you're going to have a load potentially with those guys. And then, well, you just have some quarterback that you got to deal with in Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I've heard of Mahomes and Herbert. I hear both of them are pretty productive kind of guys. So,
Right.
yeah. So, and really, as the dust settled around the pick of Barron last night, it, as it often does, started to make more and more sense. You look at that room, Eric, and I don't think it's hyperbole to say it might be the best corner room in the entire National Football League. I mean, you're talking about at least 3 big-time players. I'm putting Riley Moss into that group. I think Riley Moss is a real guy for them. Jaquan McMillan, but you've got versatility now with a player that can play inside, out. He's got great flatline speed. He's pretty good size. He's really good against the run, and he can play safety. So, I guess now in its aftermath, it makes pretty good sense.
I find it ironic that Sean Payton kept talking about wanting a joker, and he did get one, but on the other side of the ball. A guy who can play safety, a guy who can play slot, and a guy who can play outside. And by the way, when you're listening to sports radio today, and when you were listening to it last night, which I was because I was driving back from an event, Riley Moss's job is not in danger. Let me repeat that. Riley Moss's job is not in danger. Jaquan McMillan's job is in danger. It is my understanding they're not as thrilled with him as everybody else. That's who this guy was drafted to replace, not Riley Moss.
That would jibe with what I'm hearing, and it would make sense. And I think that they feel like here's the measure for George Payton, who has 21 of the players that he has drafted since becoming the general manager of the Denver Broncos still on the roster of the Denver Broncos. 2 others that he drafted who are still playing in the National Football League elsewhere, Javonte Williams, Baron Browning. So you're talking about you can argue about free agency, and if you want to have a discussion, that would be fair. But I'm going to tell you, in the draft, this guy's been spot on. He really has. And he and Sean Payton together have been even better collectively as a team. So you trust in the process. You trust in the guys making the picks. And at the end of the night, it's important that they feel like they got better. And I think that they feel like they got better last night with the 20th pick in the draft.
They do need a running back.
Mm-hmm.
They need a joker. They need someone to complement Nix. And with the guys that they have, none of the guys on the roster currently are top 30 running backs in this league. Is that an unfair statement? Is that an unfair statement?
No, it's not an unfair statement. No, not at all.
So they desperately needed an upgrade. Now, I know it seems like I'm comparing apples to bananas here, but let's go back to when Pat Surtain was drafted. Oh, you got to have Justin Fields. What a terrible pick, Pat Surtain. You don't want to take him. You need to get yourself a quarterback. What's the narrative now by some in Broncos country? Oh, you need to get a running back. What the hell are you going after a cornerback for? This kid is special. At the end of the day, I'm going to let this thing play out. I know this show is called Hot Takes, and I do say things that probably piss a lot of people off, and quite frankly, I really don't care. But when it comes to things like this, it's important to let it play out before you start giving grades. And, oh, they made a mistake here, or they blew it here. I'm willing to let this stuff play out, despite the fact that I am opinionated about a lot of things. I'm incredibly opinionated about Shedeur Sanders, okay? So this is my thought on Shedeur Sanders. Second round, We coming. Some reported Sanders could slip out of the first round. Do you believe now? It's amazing how interchangeable those quotes are, aren't they? We coming to the second round. Do you believe now he wasn't necessarily a first-round talent? And we will get more to Shedeur Sanders, but honestly, that is the talker in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Nobody else. Think about this for a second. ESPN, again, spent 15 minutes of their opening block at 6 o'clock in the morning just talking about him. Just talking about him. We will get to him more. Sorry I had to bring that into the show, but now let's take a step back and get back to the Broncos. Looking at day 2, which starts today. If they don't get a running back today, now how are you feeling?
Confused. If I was looking for one word, it would be a little confused. They know they need a running back. We know they need a running back. Everybody knows they need a running back. They know what kind of running back they're looking for. And there's one guy that matches that need out there right now, but there are other guys that they could certainly mix and match with. And I think that that's their fallback in this draft. And I think it made the pick that they made last night that much easier. I thought George was almost not casual, but he was pretty confident that, hey, there are running backs left in this. There's a lot of value. In fact, Sean Payton was calling the second and the third round the honeypot of this draft. And I get it. You've got a lot of players that in the second and third round who could be first day starters in the National Football League. So we'll see. I'm with you. We'll see how it all plays out. I would be surprised if we didn't see a running back come to the Broncos today. Would they potentially move up to get into the picture for Travion Henderson? Maybe. It depends on. Well, I mean, if they were
to give up, and I understand that, but if this is the honeypot, do you want to give up the majority of your honey for a guy that you want to call honey?
Well said. And a guy that's had some physical challenges in over the last couple of years. So, but the answer is very simply, how convicted are they? How much belief do they have in where they are and the player that they need to go and do that? And the proof will be in the pudding. I mean, it was very apparent to you and I think, that they were not going to move up in this draft. And sure enough, Sean talked about that early on last night. This was a stay-at-home, trade-back kind of draft.
There was a report that they were looking
there was a report. Whatever. I mean, I know, and it was Diana Rossini. I know, I mean, it was a good report from a reputable person, but come on.
Let me ask you, would you have been willing to move up to 12 to get Tyler Warren?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what's interesting is I was talking to my father this morning, who is a diehard Packers fan.
Great guy.
And he lives in Chicago. And I said, I got to tell you something. Lake Forest is where Hallis Hall is, outside of Chicago. If Colston Loveland is not the same quality as the kid out of Penn State, okay?
Yeah.
They should burn down all of
Tyler Warren.
They should burn it all down. Because Bears fans will never forgive the Bears for Mitch Trubisky, not Patrick Mahomes. And then can you imagine if Tyler Warren turns out to be Brock Bowers reincarnated and they took Colston Loveland? They would have to burn down the whole city. Everybody would have to go, not just Hallis Hall. Anybody who has any connection to Hallis Hall must all be destroyed. They got to get rid of everything from the past.
Well, my wife was very concerned about the pick. She's a Bears fan and has been a Bears fan ever since I've known her. And she was like, well, I won't say exactly what she texted me, but it had something to do with a flippin' tight end. And so I don't think there's any question that there are some concerns amongst Bears fans about the pick that they made last night, certainly. And we're talking about a player too that really hasn't tested at all. I mean, we haven't seen he hasn't done any pro days. He didn't do anything at the combine. We're talking about a guy that basically you haven't been able to test because of his rehab for an injury. So I thought it was outside of the Shedeur Sanders, that was about as captivating a move in the first round as any, simply because Loveland going ahead of Warren, I think, surprised a lot of people. It certainly surprised me.
Coming up after the break, just how bad was it for the Nuggets? We're going to point out 3 things that are going to make you think, man, you're not going to be able to win a game if one of these things happens. 3 things happened, and I don't know which one was worse. And then we need to talk more about Shedeur Sanders and why did he slip in the draft and what will potentially happen today. I'll be honest with you, I'm not rooting against the guy. Maybe the second round will be good for him. Okay, maybe the second round, because maybe he'll go to a team where he can sit. What teams would be good for him? What teams specifically would be awful for him? And I mean drop dead terrible. Probably the team that might take him. And we'll let you know who we believe that is. Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. I don't think they're going to take him. You know what? Before we tease it, you think the Browns take Shedeur Sanders?
Well, they've got 2 picks in the first 5.
Yes or no? So don't pontificate. Don't filibuster. Yes or no? You think they take him?
I think there's a good chance they do, yes.
Oh, my God. How far is that fence post up your ass? Yes or no? Don't ride the fence. Do you think they take him?
I think there's a good chance they take him. I mean, what more do you want from me? I mean,
a yes or no? I can play that game all day.
Yes, Eric. I mean, yes. They've got 2 picks in the first 4. It makes perfect sense. It's a kind of a duh question.
I don't think they take him. I mean, I don't think they take him. I don't think. Want to know why? You know why? First of all,
no.
You don't want to know why? I'll tell you why.
Yes, of course I do.
For starters, the marriage with Shedeur Sanders and Stefanski would be as awful as you can possibly imagine. It would be beyond toxic. If the relationship between Stefanski and Baker Mayfield was bad, this would be far worse. Shedeur Sanders, as we're blowing through a tease here, by the way, we'll get into more Shedeur in a minute. This is why Shedeur would be a terrible fit. One reason why Baker Mayfield wanted out of Cleveland so badly was he wanted to help with the offense. If he wanted some input. And Stefanski wanted none of it. I was told this by an incredibly good source close to Baker Mayfield. And Mayfield's like, I can't work with this guy, and Stefanski probably felt the same way about him. How would you like to bring in a guy like Shedeur Sanders, who basically ran the offense for 2 years at Colorado, who feels that he should be able to call plays, he should have a big part in the offense, he's going to be checking out of plays at the line of scrimmage? Shedeur Sanders is, if you thought Baker Mayfield wanted input, what do you think Shedeur Sanders is going to want in terms of input when Daddy allowed it? So you think that's a good marriage?
I don't think it's probably. I don't think on site it's a good marriage. I think there's probably a little humility that it's working into this equation about now, but we'll have to wait and see.
You know what? Okay, I'm going to blow the tease here. Shedeur Sanders has zero humility. 0.0. You want to know why? Did you see the diamond-encrusted rope and dog tag he had on yesterday? Does that look like humility? He had a whole room built with the word trademark all over it. Does that look like humility? That's not humility to me. That's a guy who's walking out, peacocking. But be careful when you peacock, because you might become a feather duster. That's next.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. Don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corn bake. Man, you gotta try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a Ford Bronco Raptor or nearly $30,000 in cash the weekend of May 23rd. Get finalist entries from 10 a.m. until midnight during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes or by redeeming player points. And all daily cash drawings that don't get picked are eligible for a second chance drawing on Wednesdays, and that can turn into extra cash. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports bar. Welcome back. Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the Nuggets, and I don't think the Nuggets want us spending a lot of time on the Nuggets. I think they would like us to forget about this game and look ahead to Saturday's game. With that, final score 117-83. Bruce, what was more embarrassing? The Clippers outscoring the Nuggets 54-21 from the three-point line, the Nuggets defense as a whole, or, and this is unreal to me, the Nuggets used 7 guys off the bench, total of 60 minutes, and they scored a total of 6 points.
The thing that I took away most from, and you know that I was a little busy last night, but I was trying to pay as much of attention as I possibly could,
Bruce,
or that I even wanted to.
Bruce, here's your little violin. I did an event last night, okay? I don't want to hear about how busy you were. Here's my little violin for you. And this isn't the Johnny Manziel money sign.
Yeah. It was my biggest takeaway was the absolute frustration in the body language of Nikola Jokic in the second half. You have brought into this situation a lack, and I don't want to be too out there on this, a lack of confidence in your teammates and those around you. To me, that was my takeaway last night. I just saw Nikola Jokic being like, damn, dude, what do I have to do? How big do my shoulders have to be? What do I have to do to drag this team into, first of all, caring? Just caring. It was just a bad look all the way around. You just talked about 3 boxes that we checked that are all head-shakeable, eye-rollable offenses for a team. But you add into exasperating your superstar, the guy that has delivered for you consistently in the entire 10 years that he's been the main focal point of this franchise, a guy that you can still win with in the NBA, and the guy that can still deliver a championship, and this is what you've got around him? Are you kidding me? The Nuggets, frankly, last night should have been ashamed of themselves. Absolutely ashamed of themselves. Now, look, this thing isn't over, I guess. Mathematically, it isn't over. I mean, I think it's over, but mathematically, they're down 1-2, and they've got another game coming up on Saturday in LA. So we'll see what happens. But, man, the body language was really telling last night, and Nikola Jokic's body language was screaming from the highest mountaintop.
Remember when I said to you after the Nuggets won game 1, I would not be surprised if the Clippers win the next 4?
Yeah, you did.
We are going Thelma and Louise right at that cliff right now.
Yeah.
Now, we'll see what happens with the Avalanche tomorrow. But what I find interesting about yesterday's game was this. Everything that you and I talked about heading into the season was on full display, standing there, center court, with underwear around ankles. Let's start with this. They're not a good three-point shooting team. Scored 21 points on threes. Not a good perimeter defensive team. Gave up 54 points to the Clippers on threes. Overall, just not a good defensive team. We saw that. And then we're worried about their bench. 7 players, 60 minutes. Those 7 guys scored 6 more points than I did sitting on my couch.
And on top of it, they had 3 transition points. The very thing that they do best in the NBA, they got 3 points off of last night. 3 points in transition. So they're not running. They're not doing the things that they need to do to win games that they've needed to do all season to win games. That's how you lose by 34 on the road. That's how you go and get embarrassed in a playoff game. You just, I don't know. It was disappointing. Now, hey, look, they can wash it away with an effort that is difficult for me to see happening on Saturday. Great. Count me in the portion of the equation that is looking to be pleasantly surprised. But man, I saw a team last night that just could not respond, and a team that was making the most important guy on the floor for them frustrated. Bad equation. Really bad.
Big story today, this morning at least, Shedeur Sanders, not drafted in the first round. A lot of people thought he would go at 21. They do need a quarterback. I will say it's going to be hard to try and still woo Aaron Rodgers, giving him a call saying, we drafted Shedeur Sanders. It's going to be very difficult to trade for Kirk Cousins, who will have to approve a trade if they draft Shedeur Sanders. So maybe they know something that we don't. I do know they really wanted to replace Cam Hayward. But the biggest curb stomp and kick in the teeth for Shedeur Sanders is when the Giants traded up. And Shedeur is feeling all good about himself. And then he got punched in the throat.
Well, it's all risk and reward right now for Shedeur Sanders. And so far, they have not found a team that is willing to go with the risk, to take the risk over the potential reward. It's plain and simple.
Risk, Bruce, you tell me. What's the risk?
The risk is the perceived entitlement and arrogance of Shedeur Sanders. And
is it perceived or is it accurate?
Oh, I think it's perceived. I think anyone's capable of changing. I think anyone's capable of learning. I think anyone is capable of figuring it out. Humility is, and you talked about it, he has no humility. Well, okay, we'll see. He's already lost a ton of money. He's now down into the second round, and we'll see what ends up happening. Will he find a fit? It remains to be seen. Here he is on the second day, and he doesn't have a suitor. So what happens if he slips through today, or at least into the third round? If we take you at what you said, and you have conviction, and I appreciate that Cleveland isn't playing this game, that's right. 2 of the first 3. That's right. That's 2 of the first 4 picks in the second round. The Giants have already gotten their guy. So that quarterback is off the board. There's a recognition of, hey, if we can weather the storm this year by teams that need quarterbacks, we can get into a much deeper quarterback class next year. So is there a team out there with any kind of urgency for a Shedeur Sanders? Well, the answer to that is no, because he slipped through the first round.
Okay, let me
Here we are.
Let me ask you, and just give me a quick, simple answer, because then I'm going to continue with it. Did you like Drake May coming out of the draft as a physical talent?
Yes, as a physical talent, yes.
Good. Okay. I liked him as a physical talent as well.
Yes.
Let's take Drake May's physical talent. Okay. I know what I'm about to say. I am going to sound like get off my lawn guy. I am going to sound like man who shouts at clouds. Okay. And I'm fine with that. And if you don't like it, fuck you. This is my answer to that. I'm dead serious about this. I'm dead serious. I do not want a guy in my locker room that builds a shrine to himself before the draft. I don't want a guy in my locker room who has diamond-encrusted chains around his neck with a diamond-encrusted dog tag connected to it in my locker room. I do not want a guy in my locker room who was enabled by his dad to basically run an offense for 2 years. I do not want a guy in my locker room who throws his offensive line under the bus. I do not want that personality in my locker room. And as I said to you before, and I shouldn't have used the F word, and I apologize, but I do feel strongly about this. I said this to you during the Buff season. Shedeur Sanders is the type of guy that will be duct taped to a goalpost in training camp if he continues with that stuff. And there's no humility, zero from this guy. He's walking in entitled, and we can say, well, he dropped because his last name is Sanders. His number got retired because his last name is Sanders. Let's really call it like it is. He acts like his dad did when his dad came out of Florida State. The difference is people looked at Deion as a surefire home run pick. Shedeur is living vicariously through his dad's greatness. And we can say that Shedeur wants to carve out his own path. He's not carving out his own path. He's doing exactly what his dad did. And he's just not as good as his dad. I don't want a guy like that in my locker room with Drake May's talent. And you and I talked about that yesterday. Is what's more important, talent or all the other stuff that goes with it? The other stuff that goes with it, to me, is a really big deal. Drake, so what would you do? Would you draft Drake May in the first round with his talent, with all the other stuff that goes on, if you combine Drake May with Shedeur Sanders? Would you
No, it's too much of a distraction. I mean, that's the whole risk and reward thing that I'm talking about. I mean, the risk isn't his ability. The risk is who he is.
No, the risk is his ability. The risk is his ability. He does some good things. He does some very good things, but he runs backwards when he's under pressure. I'm sorry, but guys from North Dakota State aren't going to be chasing you on Sundays where you can escape. Defensive ends are catching you. And you're going to be taking a lot of big sacks like Caleb Williams and like Russell Wilson.
Right. And like many quarterbacks going from even the highest level of Division I into the NFL, there will be bumps along the road and very much a strong learning curve. You have to be willing to get on the learning curve and recognize that there are things that you need to learn, because very few quarterbacks make the jump from college football, even in the SEC or the Big Ten, the Big 12, and just are plug and play guys in the National Football League. It takes a little time. It takes a little transition. What is Shedeur's willingness now to learn, to understand that he has to learn, And what kind of fit can he find? I don't think he handled the situation poorly last night.
Penny. They're choosing him.
Well, okay. Yeah, he's going to find a fit. He's going to be drafted. Someone's drafting him because of the talent. And that's going to happen. He's not slipping through 7 rounds. He more than likely will go today. So, I mean, someone is going to take a chance on him. And then the clock starts. Then we see how the whole thing starts to develop. Shedeur Sanders, we agree, is not stupid by any stretch of the imagination. He's got good football IQ. He has an understanding of the game that I think is probably elevated because of who he is and the family that he's been in. He has seen it in a lot of different ways. Those are all things that in the right hands and with the right mind and the right psychology can be molded into a pretty good quarterback at this level. It's incumbent upon him to want to receive that and to know that he's got to make progress towards becoming that type of quarterback. He's not that type of quarterback right now. So I'm cheering for him. I'm pulling for him. I want him to be successful. He's chasing a dream. People can argue about the entitlement of growing up in family Sanders. I understand that. But there's also a fair amount of shadow that is cast by your father and the success that he has had, the Hall of Fame career, rightfully so, and just the personage that he is. And look, you make the decision. Am I going to be comfortable in that, or am I going to find my own way? I think Shedeur is both comfortable with that, but I think that he probably understands deep down, and maybe not even deep down, I think he understands that he needs to find his own way. And I hope that he does, because that's his answer. He's got skill. He's got skill.
He does have skill. No. He is mirroring his dad. He trademarked 4 things. That's something his dad did. He has a chance to go his own way, but he's not going his own way. His own
way here is not about trademarking and all of that crap. His own way here is what kind of football player does he become that he can be viable and can be successful at the next level. But all of the other stuff, whatever. If you help a team win a football game, that is the thing in the NFL. And it's that simple. Can you help me win? I'm a veteran guy in that locker room. I don't care about all your this, that, and the other thing, all of the ancillary stuff. My question to you is, what are you doing to help me win a football game? Why the hell does everyone think that Bo Nix got to the corner so quickly in Denver? It's because guys started to recognize early on, we can win with this guy. That's all anyone is looking for. Do you have winning traits that allow this team to win games? That remains to be seen. He's a skillful guy, but there's some softening of the edges. There's some rounding of the edges that need to be done. And we've talked about what the challenges are for him. And the thing is that listening to him over the course of the offseason, I think he understands that. He understands his propensity for hero ball. He said as much at the combine. He said, that's something or other that I've got to get better at. The desire, I understand the idea of playing hero ball. So I think on some level there is recognition. But is there enough recognition to get onto the level where you can help a football team win games? Don't know.
Shedeur Sanders can't help himself. Let's call it like it is. He walked into the draft, walked into other buildings, and was arrogant. It's been well documented. And then when he saw his draft stock slipping, apparently he became a little bit more modest. Good on him. Okay, so you think he's heading in the right direction, right, Bruce? So
I hope
what
so.
does he do?
Yep.
So then what does he do? He has a draft party at his house with the word legendary all over the place, this shrine that he built for himself. He's wearing diamond-encrusted ropes and all that. That doesn't scream modesty to me at all. He is who he is. He is his father's son. That's who he is. And you talk about nature versus nurture, even though it's not a biological thing, thank God for Travis Hunter. He is the complete and total opposite of Deion Sanders. Travis Hunter is the type of guy that you want your daughter to marry. You want to be friends with. Okay? Women want to be with this man because he is nice, he is empathetic, he is smart, he is kind, he is generous. And I am thoroughly amazed that Travis Hunter hanging around Deion and Shedeur, that stuff did not even rub off on him. Think about what happened in the Colorado State game. And that guy who leveled him at Colorado State. Do you think Shedeur Sanders would have done that sit down? Hell no. Hell no. Deion went after Jay Norvell. Travis Hunter is a man's man, and he was hanging around all of that arrogance and narcissism, and it never rubbed off on him. Could you imagine Travis Hunter building a shrine for himself, wearing all those ropes? Good on him. Shedeur, you need to grow up. That's what you need to do. That's one reason why you weren't drafted. People don't want that in their locker room unless you are a great quarterback. And you haven't proven that you're a great quarterback. You have proven that you are Johnny Manziel minus the drinking and drug problem. You are all sizzle and no steak.
I think there's some steak there still.
No. When I say steak, I'm saying what has he shown in the NFL? Right now, he's walking into the NFL with a ton of sizzle. Here, what do we love? What do teams love about guys who come in to the NFL? Show some humility. Be happy that you're here. At least say the right things. Be hungry and be humble. Oh, Shedeur Sanders is hungry. I won't deny that. But do you think a rookie, no matter how, first of all, he's now a second-round rookie. He's not the number one pick. When you are the number one pick in the draft, you don't have an excuse to walk in and, be the big man on campus. You're still a rookie. Now he's a second-round rookie. And he's going to walk in with all that jewelry into a locker room? Really? He's going to have his legendary hats on, one of the 4 trademarks that he has. How do you think guys in that locker room are going to look at this kid when he walks in the locker room as a rookie? At the end of the day, you're still a rookie. All of us kind of laughed when we saw Bo Nix carrying pads as the starting quarterback. But Bo understood he's a rookie, right? Humility. That's what we love about Bo Nix. Hardworking and humble. There's no humility with Shedeur Sanders. Okay? No.
Well, we've talked this week about, and particularly yesterday and the day before as we ramped up to the draft, that we were going to get the ultimate reflection of the National Football League relative to Shedeur Sanders. We now have our answer. There is a beyond reticence. Nobody out there is willing to take the risk over the potential for the reward. Okay, so now to where do we go from here? Because it's going to be easier for him to find a landing spot as we move forward because we're going down into the second round, into the third round. So where is it going to be? And how will this experience help to shape him to become a good quarterback in the National Football League.
Right fit is going to make a huge difference.
I agree.
Because like how would Bo Nix be doing in Cleveland right now? Probably not well. I'll tell you where I do feel bad for Shedeur Sanders. And I mean this sincerely, because I feel badly for Travis Hunter as well. If Shedeur Sanders gets drafted by Cleveland, and now you have Travis Hunter in Jacksonville, you want to talk about being on two islands that are so far away from the NFL mainland that they're going to be playing in obscurity. And I feel really badly for Travis Hunter. And really, Cleveland is on that same track. I hope that Shedeur Sanders finds the right fit. I think playing for Pete Carroll would be the right fit. Sean McVay would be the right fit. The question is, do those guys want him? My advice to Shedeur is take off the jewelry, stop trademarking things, just walk in there and be one of the guys. That's going to go a long way. Again, I'm a 56-year-old guy. You want to tell me I'm yelling at clouds? I don't give a shit. Again, you may be smart, not you, Bruce. You might be smarter than me, and I'm cool with that. But compared to most of you, I have more wisdom. And the difference between knowledge and wisdom is very simple. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing that a tomato does not belong in a fruit salad. And if you don't understand that, walking into a locker room, being the big man on campus, thinking that you still are, being flashy, big cars and big jewelry, and you've trademarked things. If you don't believe for a minute, that is going to set off an instant impression with your veteran teammates. When you've proven nothing, you have gotten off on the wrong foot, and shame on you.
I don't take exception to someone being flashy, different, materialistic. That's fine. If that's the path that you choose for yourself, that's your choice, and that's fine.
Do you believe in first impressions, Bruce? Because that's your first impression.
Yeah, it's a tough first impression, and my point is, well, here's my point, Eric. Let me make my point. My point is that's a lot to overcome. It's hard enough to do what you're going to try to be doing anyway, making the jump from college football to the NFL. But when you are dealing with all of the other things too that can create more challenges for you, it makes the road more difficult to navigate. I think that's where Shedeur Sanders is at this point. He's got to find a way to take some of the noise from outside of him and his skill set, and just be able to concentrate on his skill set. And he has to help that process. I'm fine with him being an individual and expressing his individuality in whatever way that he seems fit. I don't have a problem with that. You do. That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I just don't. But he has to recognize that it will create in the world of the NFL and what he is trying to assimilate into. It creates challenges for him. That much is true. Yes.
And that's why I don't want a guy like him in my locker room, because you know what that tells me? First of all, you choose your first impression. It doesn't choose you. You choose it by walking out your door, driving the cars that you drive, trademarking stuff, and wearing all that big jewelry. Okay? That's the first impression that you have chosen. No one has told you to do it. Shedeur Sanders does not have a drug problem. Shedeur Sanders does not have a drinking problem. Nope. If he did, then you could blame it on that. Bad decisions, like Johnny Manziel. Yep. He had some substance issues, and he made bad decisions because he couldn't kick that stuff. That's not a problem, and good for him with Shedeur Sanders. He is choosing this first impression. But here's the problem with choosing this first impression. This tells me he has no self-awareness. You can call him an individual if you want to, and he has a right to be an individual and who he is, and I'm not going to take a backseat to anybody having somebody tell me, like this Eric Goodman guy telling me how I should live my life. That's fine. You don't have to. This is the first impression that you've chosen, just like when you went in and pissed off a bunch of NFL teams because you are so arrogant. This is how you've chosen to present yourself. But if you don't realize that that is a lack of self-awareness, which is what it is, that is a problem in a locker room. And how does that translate? Wasn't my fault. It's not my fault I'm getting sacked so much. It's the offensive line. That's a lack of self-awareness. That stuff translates into your professional life too. It's not just your personal life, it's your professional life. Blaming others, lack of self-awareness. What can I do better? Blaming others, lack of self-awareness. What can I do better? It all ties together. It's not like a bunch of individual buckets in life. It all ties together. And that's his problem. And he will have to learn the hard way. I hope he becomes a successful quarterback, and I say this sincerely. I hope he finds the right situation, because if he doesn't, it's going to be very bad for him. He needs to find the right situation, and unfortunately, it's not his choice, and it's not Daddy's choice either. Because when Daddy said, well, I might have to step in, Dion, you got nothing. You're not stepping in anywhere. Your son's a second-round pick now.
Let's go, Shedeur. Let's find the spot. Let's move forward, and let's prove that you can be what I think a lot of people feel like he can be, although there's not a lot of people like that in the NFL right now, because he bypassed 5 teams that needed a quarterback.
Think about that for a second.
Yep.
Now, okay, so the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe they're still pining for Aaron Rodgers. Maybe they're pining to make a trade for Kirk Cousins. If you really feel a guy's a really good quarterback, don't you want this guy cost controlled for 5 years?
Yeah.
And the Steelers so desperately need a quarterback. They didn't want him.
No.
Mike Tomlin, who is loved by his players, right? Players coach, tough guy too, but players coach, Tomlin didn't want him.
No.
I mean, that's
and
pretty
the Giants, who just looked at him again last week, moved up at the end of the first round and picked another quarterback. Well, these are all messages. There's no question about it. They're all messages.
No, but remember something, and this was the false narrative out there. Oh, the Giants just flew to Boulder. No, they flew to Mississippi too. It's just it doesn't get the same fanfare because they went to Oxford. It doesn't sound as good as going to see Dion and Shedeur. They went. Think about this for a second. Oh, my goodness. You saw all the reports about Shedeur and how arrogant he came off as. And all these anonymous, and please don't give me this news. Don't give me this garbage about because somebody's anonymous. It's not true. It is true. You just don't want to put your name to it. And I don't always believe in anonymous sources. And he knew is it fair to say Shedeur Sanders knew his reputation going into last night? He knew what people were saying about him, arrogance, brash, he knew that, right?
Oh, yes.
And
without question.
Then he shows up in his man cave with all of his trademarks and his diamond-encrusted ropes. He's just feeding that narrative. That's not learning anything. Sure, he's being an individual and he's showing who he is. Good on you. You still haven't learned anything because you don't do that. You don't do that. Don't feed the beast. But as I said earlier in the show, like Dad, when he played for Florida State and then was a Hall of Fame player, Dion couldn't help himself. He just couldn't. He wore the same jewelry. He had the same attitude. But the difference is he could back it up. I don't know if Shedeur can back it up.
Yeah, we don't know that yet. Yeah. Dion backed it up from day one and had a Hall of Fame career and was especially at that time, was a totally different kind of character coming into the NFL. Unlike anyone that we'd ever seen. Joe Namath wasn't the same kind of thing, but Joe Namath had a seismic approach to things as a quarterback and a guy that did things differently. But boy, it'll be interesting to see how this affects Shedeur Sanders. And it may not affect him at all. He may be damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. All I need is an opportunity to prove myself. And you know what? He may not be wrong, but he's got to find the opportunity. That's the challenge now moving forward. And to your point, Eric, and you've been very you've been strong about this morning.
We've been
there is but there is a place for him in the NFL.
I think there is too.
There is a place for him in the NFL. Can he find it? And can someone find him? To me, it still remains, I think, the biggest question and storyline of this National Football League draft. We knew it was going to be the biggest story in round one. It was. Now, does it become the biggest story in round two? We're fixing to find out.
Listen, he is Tim Tebow light. The cameras love him. The moths flock to the light. Wherever he goes, it will be a circus, just like it was with Tim Tebow. Not as bad, but it will be. The day Shedeur Sanders starts for an NFL team, everyone's going to watch. Everyone. Sure. More than any quarterback who will be taken in this draft. He is the story. Anyway, we went this is supposed to be a 40-minute show. It went an hour. The extra paycheck is coming to you, Bruce. Same with you, Alex. You're getting paid overtime for this show. Alex, have a great weekend. Bruce, have a great weekend. Hot Takes with Goodman and Haertl. We'll talk to you Monday.